Good afternoon, my name is Ola Tamanova and I want to thank everybody who joins us in Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform. Today's day 477 of the full-scale invasion of our homeland by Russian aggressor, and I traditionally want to thank all the media who tell the world the truth about our heroic resistance. And now we will be talking about the work of our Air Defense Forces. Joining us online is Yuriy Ignat, the spokesperson of the Air Force Command of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Good afternoon, Mr. Yuriy. Good afternoon. Mr. Yuriy, latest events within the last weeks, they tell us that the intensity of shellings of Kiev has changed, so to say, but at the same time we see the intensification of attacks on other regions, on other cities of a country. What does it tell us? Has the tactics of the occupiers changed? Well, has enemy changed the tactics? Well, it's already a stencil. The tactics of the aviation weapons is the same. The enemy keeps doing the same. They just change the priority of the targets, the time of attacks, and intensity. So it's not the change of tactics, but rather those things that I've just mentioned. The enemy definitely was trying within whole of May to inflict some powerful strikes on the capital, on the infrastructure facilities that are located either nearby Kiev or inside of this capital itself. So we have to understand that for the enemy, the attack on Kiev with any weapon is a priority. What they wanted to achieve in Kiev is quite clear. They need panic. They need panic among the Ukrainian people, and if it happens in the capital, that would be extraordinarily good. It would have a great media effect. They may show it to their population in Russia that we've had revenge on Ukraine, something's burning over there. Well, you all understand how the Russian propaganda works. That's the first. Second, they wanted to achieve another target. They wanted to destroy some facilities in Kiev. Well, we understand what enemy wanted to destroy. They wanted to show the advantage of the Russian weapons over the NATO specimens, plus the exhaustion of our air defense forces. The Shahed drones fit for that purpose quite well. They launch it from the north so that we uncover the location of our air defense facilities, our air defense systems. This is how they detect the positions, and they put the dots on their map. Plus we spend very valuable rockets, vitally valuable, on which the security of Ukraine depends, the security and safety of our citizens. We see that in June, in fact, the attacks do not cease. The enemy continues their night attacks. They try pursuing the same goals. Sometimes it's just the direction of attacks that changes. Well, we remember that it was the same in May. We remember the strikes on the west of Ukraine. In the south, they were using both ballistic and cruise missiles there. So we see that now, within the last couple of days, there were 2 attacks on Kryvyi Rih and other regions. This night there were 20 Shahed drones, 100% of which were destroyed by our air defense forces. They were flying from both south and north. The Operational Air Command South and Operational Air Command East worked quite efficiently, but out of the cruise missiles only 1 was shot down. And this is the way the cruise missiles are designed. They are designed to overcome the air defense systems, but it all depends on first of all on the availability in this or that region, or in this or that route of flight of the cruise missile, of the identification detection systems and the air defense systems, plus the luck, of course, because war is a science and an art, is the art of warfare operations. We understand that the enemy tries to obfuscate us all the time. We understand that they try to use the ruse, and we also use our tactical tricks to as a countermeasures to their ruses. Now there is activity in the morning in the eastern and southern directions of the tactical aviation of the enemy in amount of 10 to 20 fixed wing aircrafts. They continue cruising the area of the forward edge of the battle area. They are both A-50 electronic countermeasures aircraft plus the UAVs, which monitor the movement of our troops along the forward edge of the battle area, so they should be destroyed as convenient because they pose certain type of hazard too. Mr. Yuriy, you mentioned that Russians moved their missile system bulk closer to our borders. What are the threats that it poses to our people? Well, there was information about movement of one battalion of SAM BAL, that's their rocket system, which is used for damage of the ships. They carry modernized missiles X-35U, which have an increased radius. The Russians said that it's up to 500 kilometers. I think that's a little bit of exaggeration, but we cannot know for sure. But I could say that 260 kilometers is their effective distance. And with that, they can reach certain facilities that they can reach from the Bryansk region. Those missiles, they carry the warhead weighing up to 150 kilograms compared to X-101, which weighs up to 400 kilograms. The missile itself is smaller, it's more difficult to detect, its efficient reflecting surface is smaller, and this is why it's more difficult to detect by the radars, and they are supposed to fly above water and to fly closer to their surface. The enemy was already using this type of missiles for attacks on Odessa and Mykolaiv regions. There was a number of launches detected, and some of those missiles were downed. One or two of them actually were downed in that region. So those rockets are launched from the helicopters and fixed wing aircraft. So that battalion that they moved to Bryansk region, it tells us that the enemy has a deficit of cruise and ballistic missiles, and this is why they resort to the anti-ship, anti-vessel missiles from the north, where there is no sea but there is Dnipro. And we have to realize that they pose threat anyway, and we have to be ready to counter this threat. The fact that the enemy has a deficit of missiles is quite obvious. I mean, in terms of those rockets that they were using in winter and autumn. And until this last moment of manufacturing, now we see that we find the debris of the rockets that were manufactured in May last year or in autumn last year, and sometimes they don't even have engraved marking and just something written with the handwriting, with the highlighter. It means that those are very freshly manufactured missiles, that they launch them right away as they were manufactured. Those are the good news, but the bad news are that they continue manufacturing them. They have enough spare parts, they have enough parts. Well, I don't know if they're sufficient, but still they have them. And I think that the supplies are still underway, because those parts that we already mentioned in different broadcasts, I mean, are specialists, different speakers from the government, that indeed there are hundreds of spare parts that are manufactured by the Western countries, and the sanctions that we're talking about numerous times, even in your broadcasts, the compliance, the control of the sanctions by all the countries that are the suppliers will help. Well, we cannot stop it because we understand there are such phenomena as smuggling, and as the third country is helping them, but increase of the sanction pressure will help in decrease that flow of double purpose products. And again, it's not only about the missiles. For example, the fixed wing aircraft, they continue being manufactured in Russia. That's a high-tech products, and they even manufacture them for exports like Su-35, and it would deprive, in case of cessation of exports, it would deprive Russia of certain income. Plus the oil mining industry is something that provides Russia with money for the war. And imposition of sanctions in that area will help to decrease Russian proceeds from that industry again. Well, so as to that bulb missile system, we have capabilities of downing this type of rockets, right? Well, I've given you the characteristics of the missile, which is a cruise missile. They have the same speed as X-101 or Caliber missile, but it's just probably 1.5 meters smaller than the rest of the missiles used by the enemy. It has a smaller surface and it can fly on the lower altitude, but in the conditions of the plain landscape it would fly higher, on higher altitude, and its speed allows it being downed by our air defense systems. But in order not to be vain, I have to reiterate it once again. Yes, there were cases of downing this type of missile in Mykolaiv region, I think, if I'm not mistaken, but there were no confirmed facts that we can down it with our air defense capabilities. But it has the cruise speed the same as other cruise missiles, so that battalion which is deployed there, we will take all the necessary measures to counter those threats as well. Thank you very much for this response, Mr. Yuriy. Today almost all of the mass media were citing the Secretary General of NATO, his words, his statement where he told that the Ukrainian pilots started their training on F-16 fighter jets. Can you please give a couple of comments about that? Well, I was in National Marathon this morning too. Well, not every day, but maybe twice a week we already train our pilots. So for the time being, I honestly don't know what is the phase of this process, what the Secretary General was meaning by that. Maybe it's something like the difficulty of translation, because sometimes the words are being torn out of the context, pulled out of the context, and I feel certain discomfort when, for example, I'm being quoted outside of the context by some Telegram channels, and it's very difficult to remove my words, my statements from the internet further on. As to the training of our pilots, again, this is a very extended process. Our specialists in many countries of the Europe. So let's start, for example, with Ramstein. Ramstein is not like people just gather at the table. The ministers or top-level military command, they gather at the table and they undertake some decision. No, it doesn't happen like that. Ramstein is being prepared by numerous teams of specialists who study those problems. And Ramstein serves as the platform for public statements and legalization, signing of documents, so to say. So again, our specialists continue the consultations with our Western partners. They identify the priorities. Plus, there are thousands of our servicemen of the armed forces studying in Europe in different training courses, including the aviation specialists, not pilots which pilot the aircraft, but the maintenance teams which maintain this process in different phases. Yes, it's going on for months. Different officers of different branches, they are represented there, and they are on a rotation basis. They just increase their experience, improve their experience. And as to our pilots, yes, we all want them to go there and come back as soon as possible. But as to the readiness, I think that everybody just wants it, and it's like they are right about to leave. So we will be waiting for that moment, as we'll be waiting for them to leave shortly. Thank you very much for this broadcast. Thank you very much for this information. Dear colleagues, I'm reminding you, joining us was Yuriy Ignat, the spokesperson of the Air Force Command of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Our team is working at the schedule for tomorrow, and we want to thank our armed forces and work together for our victory. And glory to Ukraine.